everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I have read so far this year, and also just how I've been feeling about reading in general, because it's been a very interesting reading year compared to all of the previous years. So yeah, as far as how I feel about reading, I haven't been reading very much, and I haven't been reading very many good books, and I don't really know why that is. I think I'm just in a bit of a 6-month long reading slump. I just haven't been reading many books that I'm really loving, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm in a bit of a slump when it comes to reading, because all of the books that I have read so far have been 3 stars or less. So yeah, it hasn't really been a very good reading year as far as quality, and also as far as quantity, because I have only read 20 books so far this year, and last year I read 81 books, and my goal for this year is to read 50, and I've only read 20, and we're already in June. So yeah, it just hasn't been a very good reading year for me. I don't know how to make that better. I've been really trying to search for books that I really feel like I'm gonna love, but then I just feel like I'm not in the mood to read those books once I do have them. So I don't know, I've just been feeling really weird when it comes to reading. It's just been a really weird reading year. I don't know if anyone else can relate, but yeah, I just haven't been reading very many good books, and just not very many books in general. So yeah, that's just more or less how I feel about reading. I still love reading, and I'm trying to slowly fall back in love with it, because I miss reading and I miss the feeling of finding a new book and just falling in love with it. Yeah, that's just how I've been feeling about reading in general. And now I'm gonna get into the 20 books that I have read so far this year. So the first book that I read was one of my most anticipated books of the year. I pre-ordered it and everything, and I was so excited to get it in the mail, and then when it finally arrived in the mail, it was a 2-star read, and that is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in the Bellinger Sisters series. The first one is It Happened One Summer, and I love that book so much. That was one of my favorite books that I read last year, and then this sequel was a 2-star read, and it's really disappointing because I had very high expectations for this. It's kind of like a friends to lovers romance. Sadly, this book was just really disappointing for me because I didn't feel like there was much build-up or tension between the characters. I wasn't really feeling that they had this amazing chemistry that was alluded to in the first book. And Hannah in general was a very insecure character, and I don't mind reading about insecure characters or characters who are trying to get their confidence, but with Hannah, it just seemed very she was always talking down on herself and referring to herself as a side character in her life, and I just really wasn't a fan of that. And then we have Fox, the hero in this story, and he just was also another very insecure character, and he would always talk down on himself, and at some points it would hurt Hannah in the process. And he just constantly reiterated how much of a man whore that Fox was, to the point where it became very ridiculous and excessive, and it was very annoying to read about. And the way that his friends would talk to him was really unsettling, and I just really was not a fan of it. All of that really rubbed me the wrong way, and I think he just cared too much about what his friends thought, to the point where he was sabotaging himself and his relationship with Hannah. And I think that everything with Fox and all of his, I guess, insecurity issues should be handled in therapy and not by getting into a relationship, because he has a lot of deep-rooted insecurities and trauma that I think he needs to sort through before getting into a relationship. So yeah, I just really wasn't a fan of their dynamic, and just the sex scenes were also really cringy. I really enjoyed the ones in the first book, but the ones in this book were really cringy and uncomfortable to read at some points. I was not a fan of those at all, and yeah, this was just a very disappointing book and not a really good start to my reading year. So the second book that I read this year was Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Bellfleur. It's the third book in the Written in the Stars series. I really enjoyed the first two books. I think I gave them like 4 stars, and then I gave this third book 3 stars. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read. It wasn't the best book either. It was just a pretty average book. I thought it was really cute. It was a cute little sapphic romance. In this one we follow Olivia and Margot, and Olivia is like a wedding planner and Margot is the friend of the bride and groom. So when they're looking at wedding venues and doing the whole wedding planning thing, Margot sees Olivia there because she's planning the wedding, and they realize that they remember each other from back in like high school when they kind of had like a fling, I guess. And yeah, it was just a cute little second chance romance. Then after that I read Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead, which is the second book after Finlay Donovan is killing it. In the first book we follow Finlay, who is a mom of 2 kids. She is divorced from her husband who cheated on her, and he then married the person that he cheated on her with. So there's that. And she is a writer, so one day she's at a Panera Bread and she's pitching her newest book to someone, and someone overhears her and mistakes her for a hitwoman and hires her to kill her husband. And then basically everything goes from there. It's really crazy because you're following this mom who is a writer who is suddenly contracted to murder someone. And yeah, you just follow everything that goes with that because she doesn't know what she's doing, obviously, and it's just very crazy. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in the first book, and it was insane, and the cliffhanger that it ended on was so good. But I feel like the second book didn't really live up to that. Like, I wasn't really intrigued in the story. I just wasn't really a fan of how it ended. The buildup was there, but I just wasn't really that interested in it. Like, it wasn't really gripping me the same way that the first book did. And then we have this whole buildup of finding out who contracted Finlay to murder her husband. And then when we find out who it was just very anticlimactic, and I just really wasn't a fan of it, so I gave it 3 stars. I was really excited for this one, but it just kind of fell flat for me. I had higher expectations and it was just kind of disappointing. And then after that we finally get into the 5-star reads, which were rereads, but I'm still counting it because they were still 5 stars, and that is the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. I reread volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3, and I just love these graphic novels so much. I'm so happy that I reread them because I was able to like tab all of my favorite moments, and I just love this series so much. I love Nick and Charlie and all of the characters in this universe. They all just hold such a special place in my heart, and I just love them all so much. And I really enjoyed the TV show also. I think it really did the graphic novels justice in such a beautiful way, and yeah, I just love these graphic novels so much, so I'm so happy that I reread these. And I obviously give them all 5 stars because these books are incredible. And then after that I decided to give a historical romance a try because I've been wanting to get more into historical romances, so I read The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. I gave this one 3 stars. It was fun, it was steamy, the banter I really enjoyed, and the chemistry was there, and I really enjoyed seeing their relationship develop, but it just wasn't anything like groundbreaking. I didn't really like love it. There was some misogyny in there because it is a historical romance, so there has to be misogyny, I guess. But yeah, it was just fun. It was a fun, quick read. And then after that, since I have been reading so many 3-star books, I just wanted to read something that was going to bring me joy and bring me happiness, and something that I just love so much. So I decided to do another reread, and I reread 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book is just so good. This is the first book series that I ever fell in love with. I read it for the first time in high school in like 2017, and I loved it then. and I still love it now. I have so many tabs and so many pink tabs, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this reread, and I enjoyed being able to like annotate and highlight, and now I can just flip through to find all of my favorite scenes. I just love all of these characters, and I love this series so much. I still have not reread Crooked Kingdom because I am putting it off because I'm scared of everything that's gonna happen, but yeah, I will be rereading Crooked Kingdom eventually once I can have the emotional strength for that, because I just know it's going to destroy me. But yeah, I just love this series so much, and I'm so happy that I reread it and that I have all of these tabs to flip through, and yeah, I just love this series so much. And then after that, I decided to finally finish rereading Heartstopper, so I reread volume 4. I love this volume so much because you can really see just how much Nick and Charlie care about each other and everything that Charlie is going through, and how Nick just wants to be there for him and help him. This volume specifically talks about a lot of important topics around mental health and eating disorders, and specifically how just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you're always going to be super happy and everything's going to be perfect. And you can really see how Nick really wants to help Charlie and be there for him, but there are just some things that you can't help someone with if they don't want to be helped. And you can see how Nick really wants Charlie to get better, and he encourages him to get help and talk to his parents and everything. And it's just so beautiful seeing how much they care about each other and just how they're always going to be there for each other through everything. And it's just really beautiful to read about. So yeah, I just love these characters so much. After that, I read This Winter by Alice Oseman. This is a novella in the Heartstopper universe, and I gave this one 3 stars. I liked it, but it wasn't really anything to write home about. But yeah, it was a fine novella. I thought it was pretty cute, but I just didn't love this one as much as the graphic novels. And also my copy has a lot of stuff edited out for some reason, so I had to reread it again on a PDF that I found online, because this copy is missing like a lot of scenes for some reason, so that was kind of annoying. After so many 3-star reads, I finally had a 4-star read, and that was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a retelling of Dracula's Brides, and I really enjoyed this. It was really lyrical, and I really enjoyed the writing. Like, the writing was what really stood out to me from this one. The build up to the ending, like the ending was really satisfying. But if you do want to read this one, look up the content warnings, because this does handle heavy topics like abuse and stuff like that. So I would look up the content and trigger warnings. I thought this was a really beautiful story, and it was really heartbreaking at times, because you're following a abusive relationship over the course of centuries and the cycle of abuse, and it's just really devastating to read about, but it had a really satisfying conclusion, I think. After that, I decided to reread the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I love this series so much. I read it for the first time in May of 2020, and I fell in love with it. It was just so good, so many good characters and so many crazy adventures. So I reread the first 3 books, and then I never finished rereading them because I got in a bit of like a slump, because I was binging these books back to back. But yeah, I gave The Lightning Thief 5 stars, and then I also gave Sea of Monsters and The Titan's Curse 5 stars. These books are just so good. I love all of these characters except for Luke, but yeah, I just love this series so much, so I'm definitely gonna finish my reread. But yeah, I'm so happy that I decided to reread these, because I want to read the Heroes of Olympus series, but I wanted to refresh my memory a little bit about what happens in these books, so I'm really happy that I decided to do this reread. After I finished reading the Percy Jackson books, I decided to finally read this book that I had been putting off for so long. I kept telling myself I was gonna read it, and I had it on my nightstand so I can read it as part of like my TBR, but I just kept putting it off for some reason, and I don't know why. But when I decided to finally pick it up, it ended up being 5 stars, and that is Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Johnny Sun. I loved this book so much. Like, this is definitely one of my new favorite books of all time. It was just so heartwarming and comforting. Like, that's the main word that I can think of to describe this, is comforting. Like, I just felt so validated and so just comforted when reading this, and I have so many pink tabs of moments that I really loved and want to go back to, and there are just so many little sentences in here that really made me think and analyze, and I wrote little post-it notes in them. Yeah, like, I have some post-it notes in here where I just really wanted to like write down my thoughts, and I just really resonated with a lot of this stuff. Like, I have another sticky note here, this one's 2 pages long, and yeah, I just really loved this one. It was so surprisingly like inspirational, and it was just really heartwarming and comforting, and it just felt like a warm hug. Oh, I love this one so much. It says, the harder it is to say goodbye to somebody, the luckier you are to have met somebody you're going to miss. Like, there are just so many beautiful little quotes in here. This one is another one that I really liked. It says, to experience somebody's art is to be invited into a silent conversation they are having with themselves. And yeah, I just love this book so much. I'm just so happy that I decided to finally pick up this book, because it is now my new favorite book of all time, and I bought it for my boyfriend because I was sending him like pictures and stuff of it as I was reading it, and he said that he wanted to read it too, so I bought him his own copy and he started reading it, and he's really enjoying it also. So yeah, this is just such a beautiful book. I recommend it to literally everybody because it's just such a cute, quick little read. I read it in one sitting. And then I read Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. This is another novella in the Heartstopper universe, and I gave this one 4 stars. And this one we're following Nick and Charlie, obviously, and Nick is going off to college in another city, and Charlie still has 1 more year of high school. So we're basically just following them and how they're gonna deal with this long distance, and whether or not they're gonna stay together or if they're gonna break up. And yeah, we're just following Nick and Charlie and all of the emotions that they're going through with this huge life change. And yeah, I just thought it was really beautiful, and it was really authentic to what a teenage experience would be like. And then after that, I read Olympus by Rachel Smith. This is volume 1. I picked this up on a whim at Target because I'd heard a lot of good things about it, so I decided to pick it up, and I read it in one sitting when I got home because it's a graphic novel, so it goes by super fast. And I really enjoyed the art style. Like, the art was really interesting and really cool. Like, I just thought it was so nice. Like, I really enjoyed looking at all of the like the art and stuff. It was so beautiful. Like, I really enjoyed that. But the storyline itself, I wasn't really compelled by. I wasn't really like interested in it. It was a little bit confusing at times also, but that could also just be me not really paying that much attention or not knowing much about Greek mythology. But yeah, this was a fun Hades and Persephone retelling, and I gave it 3 stars. I will be interested to see what happens in volume 2, so I might continue with this series because I just loved the art style. And then after that, I was in a bit of a manga mood because I want to get more into manga and anime, so I decided to read Yona of the Dawn volume 1, and I was not expecting this one to have incest in it. I thought it was going to be a fun little romance, but it turns out that the romance is going to be between the main character and her cousin, so I was not a fan of that at all. I am not a fan of incest in stories because that's just disgusting, so I didn't want to read about incest. I didn't know that was going to be a part of it. I was not a fan of that at all, but the storyline itself was really intriguing, so I did finish it and I gave it 3 stars. I only gave it 3 stars because of Hawk. I feel like his character is gonna be really, really good. Like, I really enjoyed what we saw from Hawk, so I will be continuing with the series just for Hawk and Hawk alone, also Yona. But I'm not a fan of the incest storyline, but the whole like political intrigue in the entire world was really, really interesting. So I don't know if I'm gonna watch the anime or continue with the manga. My friend told me to watch the anime and then read the manga, so I might do that. And then after that, I read a short story. I didn't want to read the entire collection of short stories because I just wasn't really that intrigued, and I just wanted to read this one specific short story, and that is First Kill by V.E. Schwab. I really wanted to read this one because I saw that it was going to be getting its own TV show, so I decided to give the short story a read, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It follows a vampire and a vampire hunter, and it's sapphic, and it was so good. I'm really interested to see how they adapt it to a TV show because the short story itself is also obviously really short, so they're gonna expand upon it in the TV show from what I saw in the trailer. So I'm really interested to see the TV show. And then the book that I finished most recently was Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I started reading this one in either February or March, and I made it up to like 78%, and then my loan from the library got returned and I had to get it back, and I just wasn't really that intrigued in finishing the story, so I wasn't like rushing to finish it, so that's why I just now finished it in June. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was a cute romance, but I just feel like there was too much focus on like the other characters in this story, because in this one we're following Ari and Russell, who work in a weather station, and then their bosses Torrance and Seth. They used to be married, but then they got divorced, so there's been like tension in the workplace ever since then. So Ari and Russell basically parent trap / plot to get them back together so that the office can be a pleasant place to work at again. I just feel like there was too much focus on Torrance and Seth's relationship and their development, and their development did go hand in hand with Russell and Ari's, but I just wish that we were able to see more of Russell and Ari bonding outside of plotting with Torrance, plotting to get Torrance and Seth back together. Like, I just wish there was more development from them alone and just them two, and not because of Torrance and Seth, if that makes sense. But I did enjoy Ari and Russell's relationship and their banter. I really enjoyed it. I think they really had some good chemistry and just a really good dynamic, which I really enjoyed, but I just wish that there was more focus on them and their relationship developing outside of these other 2 characters. So I gave that one 3 stars. Yeah, so those are all the books that I have read so far this year. I have read 20 books, and I am still behind on my Goodreads challenge, as my Goodreads account likes to remind me every single day when I log on that I am behind schedule. But yeah, it's just been a really interesting and weird reading year, and I'm hoping that in these last 6 months I can get back to reading how I used to last year, because I was reading so many good books last year, and it's just been a little bit frustrating that I haven't been really reading very many books that I'm enjoying. There were some really good books here and there, but for the most part the books that I really enjoyed were rereads, except for like these two books that I really enjoyed. But yeah, so it's just been a very interesting reading year, and I'm interested to see how the rest of my reading year goes, because I do have a lot of books that I'm really interested in reading, but I just have been in a bit of a slump. So I'm hoping to get out of this reading slump soon, because I want to get back to reading a lot of really good books, just like I was last year. Let me know in the comments below how many books you have read so far this year, and just how you feel about how your reading has been going in general, because I'm very interested to see if anyone else has been feeling the same way about reading as I have. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.